Welcome to Olivia's Blooms. If you are new to my channel, I'm gardening in Charlottesville, Virginia, Zone 7B. I'm a home gardener who loves growing my own cut flowers and home decor with a focus on sustainable, regenerative, and eco-friendly practices. But most importantly, I'm here to support, share with, and learn from other gardeners, so I hope you will join me in growing this amazing gardening community. Hey guys, welcome back to Olivia's Blooms. I am outside today because I'm going to be starting making my new in-ground beds that I'm going to use for my cut flower business this year. And so if you've watched some of my previous videos, you'll know I mentioned that I'm adding a couple rows, and I'm going to show you guys where I'm adding them and how I'm going to be doing this. Now we're in January, it's January 27th. It is 63 degrees. It feels even warmer than that. We had a 75-degree day yesterday, so very uncharacteristic of January, at least from my experience in this region. And I'm gonna take advantage of the weather and get these beds started. I may not be able to finish them today, but I at least can get the process started. This is not the ideal time to be making beds. If I had planned and decided to take the plunge with this business last year, I would have done these beds in the fall and they would be ready for me in spring, but that's not my reality, so I have to make the best of the situation. And if I was going to start them in the fall, I probably would dig up the grass and throw a cover crop on and let that cover crop overwinter. I am going to try that here in January. We're getting warm enough weather that these cool cover crop seeds might just germinate. It's an experiment for me. My primary goal is to make sure that I'm maintaining the soil health that's in the ground so it's still there as much as possible when I go to plant my crops in spring and summer. So why am I doing this now? I could wait until and make these right before I'm about to plant them up, but I'm concerned that the grass here, it's dormant now, but I'm worried that once it starts coming back to life in the spring, that it might be even harder to pull up. I think it's going to be hard to pull up no matter what. But my plan is I'm going to pull up the grass. We have, this area was sod. We seeded the back part of our lawn, but this area is sod. So I'm going to see if I can pull it up. I might have to do some cutting, but I'm not going to be tilling, and that's because we do have some weeds that grow by rhizome, and if we till, we're going to make that weed problem worse. So my plan is to just pull up the grass. I'm going to add just a little bit of compost, and then I'm going to cover crop. And the cover cropping keeps living roots in the soil, hopefully, if we can get it to germinate. I think looking at the next week or two, we're going to be above frost temperatures, so I think we might be able to get some to germinate, but this is an experiment, so hopefully you guys will come along with me and see how this goes. So first, let me give you a close-up of where I'm putting these rows. This is my growing space for this year. If you've watched my videos before, you're probably familiar with it, but right here is my vegetable garden, and you can see I've got some frost cloth up. Under this frost cloth, I am overwintering just a few snapdragons, a few ranunculus that volunteered and I forgot to dig up from last year, and I do have my lasagna bed experiment over there. And I am going to be using most of these beds to grow flowers. I'm going to use these two back here. You can see they've got cover crops in them, and the back one there has some mustard greens and some cilantro. And I'm going to be saving these few over here for food production. So those are the raised beds I will be using, but I am going to be adding right down here another row, and this row is going to be 15 by 4, and the 15 feet takes us all the way to this trellis here. I'm going to have just a little pathway out of my garden, and then I'm going to add another 4 by 8. Oh, hello Chase, are you modeling off the garden space for us? Thank you. So right here I'm going to do another 4 by 8, lining up with the end of this edge of the bed here. And then what I'm going to do is, we have this bed here. I'm going to take out and move this mum That's very happy. I'm sad to have to pick it up, but hopefully it will survive. You can see it's already starting to grow back. And we have a hydrangea and 2 blueberry bushes back here. So what I'm gonna do is extend this bed out so I have a 4x9 area right here. And those are gonna be my 3 spaces. And the goal of that was a few things. One, it's all gonna be close together so I don't have to be walking back and forth across my whole yard to do my harvesting. But also primarily because I don't want to take up too much of my family's backyard. And nobody really uses this space right here. It's not perfect. You can see it's a little bit sloped. We do have a lot of water, oftentimes more water than we need, so it might end up being a good thing that some of these flowers will get drainage, but I don't want to mess with the grading too much because this was intended to be a way to keep water away from our house. So first step is to pull up all of this grass. I'm just pulling it up almost like carpet. It's not super easy to pull up, but it comes out in these really big chunks and takes up pretty much the entire root system with it. So that's gonna be how I'm gonna approach starting these beds. All right, so it's been this took me about, I think, an hour and a half. I have the first bed all dug up. I'll show you, but you can see I'm covered in red clay, and that's very typical of digging around here. We have red clay and it's always pretty wet and compacted. So let me just show you, I'm gonna turn you around and then tell you what the next steps are that I plan to do. All right, so you can see the soil's not amazing, and my plan is that I am going to cover it with just a small layer of compost. I would have loved to be able to use my own compost. I'm trying to compost, I'm not getting it quite the right temperature. It's a process, but in real, true regenerative gardening, you really would use, you know, your own compost that you've made and not bring any in. But because I don't have that available, I do have a source, a local source that I trust, that is amazing compost. They do testing, they're very careful about what goes in it. It's called pay dirt compost. So I'm gonna buy some bags of that. I'm gonna cover this up, and then I am going to add the cover crop, and fingers crossed that it'll germinate in these next few weeks, even though the temperatures are gonna be cool. And next we're gonna tackle this area. Okay guys, I'm back. It is now about a week later since I started filming this video. I had to stop what I was doing. It started raining, and since then work was too busy, so things happened, but I'm back to trying to establish my new beds. And I just got back from our local co-op, and I got a tool that I'm really excited about. And this here is a broad fork. And it's a tool that is supposed to help aerate bad soils, especially clay, without disturbing the soil structure and the soil microbiome as much as tilling would. I went back and forth about buying this. It was a little over $100, but you know, this is a business that I want to grow, and I'll be building more beds to do that. And so because my soil is so bad, I just need to invest in a tool like this to really help with my soil health. And if I really want to get into regenerative gardening, this is the type of tool I need to have. So I have been broad forking. Let me show you my bed. Here's the bed I made last week. Now, I was not happy about having to leave the soil uncovered. You really don't want to do that, especially because it was raining. I threw some chopped up leaves that we had laying around. It probably didn't do much, but it was better than nothing, I guess. So what I'm doing now is I'm going through and I'm broad forking. Here is the section that I broad forked. You probably can't tell a huge difference, but this is the section that I still need to broad fork. And what you do is, and I'll show you this from far away, but essentially you stick these large tines in as far down as you can go, and my soil is so bad that I can't get down very far, even when I jump on it. This will be easier to show you when I am using both hands and both feet. But essentially you stick it all the way in the ground and then you tilt it back and you pull up the soil so that it's got some more oxygen in it and some extra pathways for earthworms, but it's not tilling every single little bit of the soil. So we'll see. This is recommended as one of the great ways to aerate clay soil. So I'm gonna do this. And then what I'm gonna do is add a layer of compost, and I'm gonna seed my cover crop and hope that it germinates here soon. It's still pretty cool for the next month or so. So we may not get germination, but I figured I would try since I had extra cover crop seed. Gosh, my soil's gonna break this broad fork. All right, now it's time for the part I'm excited for. We're gonna be adding my favorite compost. This is pay dirt compost. I'm not associated with them, but I think knowing what's in your compost and making sure it's good quality if you can't make it yourself, which I just haven't mastered yet, is really important. So I'm gonna start laying this on pretty thickly. The soil's not looking amazing, but it definitely looks better after the broad forking. And this first year, the soil's gonna be the worst, so I'm trying to give it the best start that I can as I get my business up and running. So let's add the compost. All right, so I have added the compost. It took about 10 bags, and again, this is a 15 by 4 row. It looks nice now, all covered in black. You can't see the red dirt anymore. I raked it out just to get it somewhat smooth. So now I'm gonna add my cover crop. This is a local company, Trinity Turf Incorporated, and this is the Blue Ridge mix. And this is supposed to be good for our local area for the winter time. And it consists of 34% barley, 29% oats, and 22% crimson clover. I probably would have preferred maybe some rye because I've heard that rye is also really good for breaking up roots, but this is what I have now, so I'm gonna use this. I think something's better than nothing. And then probably just water it in. We are gonna get some more rain. We get tons of rain in this area. And then hope that these will germinate in the next couple weeks. So I'm gonna spread this somewhat thinly because I don't wanna smother out the soil life. And I'll keep you guys updated as to how these do and if they germinate or not. And then I'm just kind of mixing it in. You could use a rake for this. You could also just step on the seeds, but because my soil is so compacted, I am avoiding stepping on it as much as possible. And yes, I probably should be using gloves, but there's just something about getting your hands in the dirt this time of year that makes me happy. Okay guys, so I wanted to update you. I made an executive decision. Oh, there's my shadow. So here's the first row I made, and then here's the second row, and then what I was gonna do is back here I was gonna extend this one out to the edge, but I decided instead to leave a little path in between that back area and this, because one, I felt like I needed some kind of place to walk in, otherwise I was gonna trample plants. Because these two, I'm gonna remove that white fence after I lower the mulch a little bit, and so I'll be able to walk on both sides of those. And I wanted to be able to walk on both sides of this one as well. And also, I think it looks okay to just continue this row along versus have it go in. And honestly, I don't think my family's gonna miss being able to use these few extra inches that this took. Another nice thing is this soil here looks a little bit better. You can see it's a little crumblier. There's definitely still some red clay in here, but it might just be that it's drier, but the clay seems a little better over here. I'm still gonna do the exact same method. I'm still going to broad fork it and then add the compost and the cover crop, which this cover crop is looking pretty good. I seeded it yesterday. So I will continue plugging on and I'll update you guys when I'm all finished. Okay, so I went to check on my lasagna garden and I see that I have one daffodil coming up, and then I also noticed someone enjoying themselves in this nice, warm, cozy spot. My cat, Chase. Are you enjoying yourself, Chase? I'll have to see how this does. It probably was not fully protected all winter because he's been making holes in the side so he can find his way in and have a nice, cozy nap. Thanks, Chase. I hope you're enjoying yourself, Chase. Okay, guys. The beds are finished for now. You can see I took out the white fence. I put up the trellis. I'm trying to decide, I think I might do sweet peas again on that because I have a lot of sweet peas this year. And this is the other bed. I still need to throw the cover crop seed in it, but I am just so excited to get some flowers in the ground here. And that was a lot of work. I probably could have done that much easier with equipment, but it didn't cost me much, and I think it's gonna be some really great growing space. Can we just stop for a minute and take a look at this? I dug this out of our clay soil. I mean, what? It's like a club. I'm leaving that here for Bear to enjoy. I also just wanted to give you a sneak peek here. It's February 3rd at some of the things that are popping up in the garden. We have hyacinth. We have some tulips. We have some beautiful pansies. I love their color this time of year, and I just love how they pop up everywhere. I don't know if that probably annoys some of you maybe, but to me it's so cute that they just show up in random places, like that guy right there. Here's another one just shining. And then my favorite this time of year, the hellebores. Aren't they beautiful? I cut a lot of the ones that were open, so right now we just have buds, but even the buds themselves are so pretty. So thank you guys for joining me today and helping me through this labor of love. I hope you had as much fun out in the garden with me today as I did.